Hello and welcome to everyone who have joined in this episode of Finding the Fix. Real change begins with a dialogue. And to have a dialogue here today, we have Amit Kataria, uh, who is a CHRO at MINFY. Earlier, he was CHRO at Hanu Software. And not just that, he has been awarded as top 100 HR power leaders, top 50 CHROs of the year. Amit, everybody says culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? And as a CHRO, I know that is what you believe in as well. But to begin the conversation, let me ask you, like, how has your journey been till now? And having been in the role for some time now, what is it that keeps you excited for another 10, 15 years to come?
Thank you, Sudhanshu, for such a warm welcome and giving this honor and opportunity today for me to interact with you and this lovely audience. Coming back to the question, I think you don't choose HR, HR chooses you. And that's the journey I think is being beautifully rewarding for me personally. And just putting 2 minutes in there, I'm not HR by choice, but by accident, I would say. I'm a physics honors graduate, and then I did my master's in computer applications, and then I pursued my master's in human resources. And if you see, the learning is always an integral part. Currently, also, I'm pursuing my PhD in AI in HR and talent management, and defending my thesis as we speak. So, if you speak about it, it's been around more than 2 decades. I've been serving HR fraternity and this field. Every day is a new day of learning for me. When I get up in the morning, I have hundreds of things planned to first, kind of help to the cause of whole ecosystem of HR, that how we are doing, how we are evolving. I've seen the days from the type of when we were submitting the paper sheets to the time that now you only need to prompt on AI-driven systems to get your answers. So that has been a journey so far, and in a crux, yes, very beautiful, very rewarding. And I want to, if there's opportunity to relive that, I would again choose the HR.
Definitely, and for me, I'm an accidental HR as well. So I've been a banker most of my life, and we started our own entrepreneurial journey when we were building this up, this organization right from the scratch. I remember having my first interview, the first person we interviewed for AntWalk, and now we are close to 150 member team. So HR is something that I took up because it first fell on me, and slowly I fell in love with this entire people building organizations. Brick and mortars don't do it, right? One thing that really, when I was going through your LinkedIn page, one thing that kind of stood out was you spoke about culture of joy within an organization. You know, Traditionally people think that profession and pleasure should be kind of kept separate, right? But why? What is the significance of fostering a culture of joy within an organization? And why is it important that I derive pleasure from my work? Why shouldn't be like business and pleasure be kept separate?
Yeah, and very beautiful question, Sudhanshu. Now, I will be precise and very concise on that. So, when you talk about this fostering a culture of joy, what I feel it's integral not only because it boosts the morale, and I feel it's also promotes the productivity and innovation, right? So, see, you are increasingly motivated yourself to go over and beyond what your KPI is set for, or maybe what you are asked to do so. Isn't it that something will automatically foster the growth and excellence with high velocity within your ecosystem? And when you talk about having, if somebody is already driving pleasure from their work, it other than motivating you, it gives a sense of engagement and commitment as well. So just imagine your employees are productive, they are more innovative, they are more engaged, they are more committed. What else you need to take your organization to next level? And that's what the culture of joy does to you. It takes you to the rapid growth path. It takes you to the next orbit, and it takes you away from that the kind of mediocre competition you would face if you have that average force which is not aligned to your mind share as a company. And that's what precisely I feel, and it's my personal views. I don't speak on behalf of anyone and everyone. As a CHRO of MINFY, I believe, and all the time I've spent, this is the advantage when you bring joy, when you bring the culture of joy and accountability within the company.
And
Over to you.
one thing, the reason I ask this question also is because this is something I really believe in, especially when you talk about a startup culture, right?
Right.
Um, you start with an idea, and the initial association of people is people who identify with your idea. At the same time, they feel, this entire coming to work is so exciting. Initial 2 3 4 years of building a startup organization, aligning with the value, the culture, and of course, finding happiness in that work is also very important to build startups. Otherwise, because when I look at a work, I look at what are the output KPIs and what are the input KPIs. Input KPIs sometimes are very boring in terms of it is repetitive. You have to do the same things again and again. And if you do not enjoy that process, if you don't enjoy the process of making something out of nothing or making something concrete out of very fuzzy things, that is where the joy, and it has to be a combination of what you do and the culture that is there. So that is why the culture of joy, and I wanted to kind of start our conversation around this, right?
No, wait, yeah, and good. I want to add one more add. Very nicely encapsulated, Sudhanshu. And I said this joy, right, in essence, becomes your competitive advantage. It fuels the creativity, problem solving, and kind of drives the overall business success, as you were saying, right, to take you to the next orbit of your success as you arrive at. Yeah, but you kind of summarized it very well in the nutshell.
And the other thing, moving to the next question, wherein, as you said, people's strategy, your culture, that is going to be your competitive advantage. And what happens in the long run is that, any technology that you use ceases to be a competitive advantage because others will catch up. Strategy also, now even Uber is delivering food, so it's not that you can say that what I do today nobody else will do tomorrow. So in terms of product, in terms of services, in terms of technology, world will eventually catch up. And that is where we say people strategy, as you rightly put, is going to be your core competitive advantage. How is your organization different from that? And that is where the question is, how can the HR role be more integrated into this organizational structure? How does uh, how do you enhance the effectiveness of core people strategies? How do you make sure that organizations understand this? That tomorrow's growth, tomorrow's numbers, tomorrow's revenues will all be brought in by people. So how do you enhance that people strategy in organizations? Comment.
Right. So Sudhanshu, this is kind of a problem statement as well as a statement which you to counter it in order to drive something very very conclusive. So my answer starts here that it is very very evident that human resource cannot operate in silo. It's not an isolation function. It is a function which is more collaborative, which needs everyone's involvement from all the C levels. Like let's say if your CTO and CEO feels that let the CHRO do his job and we will keep doing whatever we are doing. It's not the process now, or maybe it's not the how organizations operating today's organizations operating, because ultimately people are the core of anything you do. And since we are a service driven economy and India is shining on this sector from last few decades, and core of this is people. Unless you don't have that whole power to the core, right, you will not uplift. And to kind of coming back to the same in theoretical point of view, what I see is to better integrate HR, we need to actively involve HR in your strategic planning as well as the decision making, right? So it comes back to the same thing. If your strategy is revolved around the people who are again at the core of you, you would automatically excel or maybe drive through with the strategy you have put in place, right? And the competitive advantage you get out of it is unbeatable. And second, when we say understanding business objectives, through the HR simplifies many problems for you before they become problem for you, right? And if you see, and I won't name the organization, just recently, just week or two back, I saw one of the IT company, and it's a very circulated name nowadays. They locked the door from inside for employees not to leave, right? So whatever the reasons may be, we don't know the other side of the story. But then just imagine in today's time in IT services company, if a HR has guts to do that, it's not the way any HR would want to operate or take your organization to the any level. The effect of that is that company is now on the brink of getting shut down. Why so? The people impact on that brand of that company was so huge that there was significant regretted attrition of them. Nobody is looking to them as a prospect employer. And that's how I coming back to the same, that your HR is a part of your strategy. It's a part where it should be involved in your decision making to take it to the next level. Simply because people is your core. And if you don't focus on your core, what are you focusing on? And that's become more important nowadays, Sudhanshu, to focus and integrate your HR in the same field.
No,
Over to you.
so another incident that happened gathered a lot of negative publicity in one of the leading banks, right? Before we move to the other section of the question, interview, which is also very close to your heart about AI in HR, I want to just kind of talk about this a bit. And I want to know your perspective as well. We want to build people's strategy at the heart of organizations, right? But people, they come with their own beliefs, their own biases, their own way of working, right? So is there a way top down companies can because when you work with people, the dynamics is so huge, everybody is so different. How do companies top down think about it, that these are what my three, say, top people strategies are going to be? Is there a way organizations can think about it?
Yes, you do. And very rightly said, Sudhanshu. Because when as a HR, you devise your strategy or functions that how it should operate, there are few intrinsic parameters to that, right? How I do it, I can tell you, and most of my friends also pick this thing. Few things, which kind of brings or maybe solves your problem, which the question is, the inclusion of diversity, right? So it's from the different mindset, from the different culture, from all the backdrops of society, it makes your workforce, right? And instead of getting it spread it to your different side where it's more negative, how beautiful it would be if you use it to your advantage, right? So diversity and inclusion means that your workforce is a common thread we're taking you to the direction of your business fulfillment, right? And that's how I feel. First, that inclusion and diversity. Second, I think it's more towards the culture and value system of the company. Imagine you as a company have, let's say, a set of policies are not that time friendly, not new age policy. Today, in the age when we are talking about work from anywhere, imagine you are a company who would stick from 9 a.m. punch to 5 p.m. Clock out from X location and doing so. Just imagine the impact on you. If your competition on the side building of yours is operating from anywhere and give flexibility, and you as a prospect candidate for the job, where would you go, right? So that's what I feel. The time is changing. People practice have to adapt and change and be creative on that. And bring on to your value system and cultural system where it's a productive for company as well as the employee. It's not like you are living in some silo in your own apprehensions of the world that no, we are the one, we will operate like this and nothing could beat us. You have seen the largest of empires collapse like bricks. And then the time is one thing which teaches lots of lessons. So all the friends in HR and all the audience who is listening, I feel company has to first of all very seriously think about what they are doing in diversity and inclusion. Second, how they are building their value system and evolving their cultural around it. So if you remain true to these two facts, I see that at least you have that one clear path which takes you to the path of success and your business objectives.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, any interview these days can't be done without talking about AI. And I fundamentally, no, I read somewhere that no, we, in the short run, we overestimate what technology can do, and in the long run, we always underestimate it. Technology has the power of fundamentally changing our lives in the longer run. Right? So when we talk about HR, and I know that your heart lies there. How can AI assist HR in terms of creating, enhancing solutions, and attracting better talent? Say in different any better outcome. I wouldn't just talk about talent, but say different functions of HR. If I do learning, how can AI possibly help me get better outcomes? If I do talent acquisition, how can AI help me get better outcomes? So how can AI and HR be integrated for HR to foster better outcomes?
Sudhanshu, good. I don't know who picked these questions, but it's such a kind of very impactful because they are touching the nerve of what we are facing today. And incidentally, you see, as I mentioned, my PhD is also about AI in talent management and human resource practices. So I've been kind of researching a lot about it. In a one sentence, if I have to answer and then explain it, is that AI has changed the landscape of whole HR in a very short time. And I give you an example. Let's go back to the one scenario and maybe at least decades back where invention used to have a horizon of thousands of years. Let's say the invention of how we cultivate grains or invention of wheats took thousands and thousands of years, right? Then it came fire, and then it, let's say, came the industrialized invention of chemicals and all that. It took decades. Then came a time where invention used to take only years. Let's internet to change the whole landscape. So internet took almost 5-7 years to change everything. Now, Sudhanshu, and which is very important, to kind of listen very carefully, is the inventions are changing the landscape in matter of days, not years, not decades, not centuries, just in few days, right? And that's how I think AI has impacted HR in such a manner that whatever we used to do is no longer a set practice, right? One example wise, I take an example of talent management, right? So I remember the days, as I in the introduction I said, I come from a time where everything was paper. If there was something and I have to compliance wise, the labor laws mandated me to fill the attendance, kept it on my front desk. Every employee has to come sign and this and that, blah blah, hundred of things, right? Now I don't even remember that I have any paper on my desk to fill in any form. And that was a time when Excel changed it. Not even forget about AI. Now with the AI, you are not meeting the candidate you are hiring. It's just total online process, as I'm saying. You're not shortlisting resume, sitting across the screen and passing through. AI is doing a job for you. You are not writing an email to candidate or messages by yourself. A SASE system is doing for you. And that only happened in just span of few months or few years per se. Okay, that is one example in talent management. Same, there is an example from human resources managed systems, right? How does your attendance is being taken care of, right? What is being done in learning and development? How your performance appraisal, PMS, as you drive through ATRs is being taken care of. So everything, when it kind of beautifully synced with AI, has become more transparent, Sudhanshu, first of all. And then, it becomes more data insightful. You don't have to wait now for days of days to pull a record on your payroll or attendance or something. It's a click of button. Could you imagine that just a decade back? No. Then you have to go through the layers of Excel, have one executive work day and night to pull the data you wanted. And that's how I think AI has changed. And one other part which I want to also put some light on, generations after us would remember us from the time that, okay, this was pre-COVID and this was post-COVID. So COVID has changed many things for a HR. Earlier, it was just, let's say, few of the very, very enthusiastic HRs were inclined to adopt to these transformative technologies, as we call it. But COVID forced everything on them to kind of take it, adopt it, and roll out. Work from home became a mandate, even if you had choice or not choice, but you had to do that, right? So since everyone was working from home, you were forced to choose the system which were online. And that's how I think the landscape changed pre-COVID and post-COVID. And AI played very important role. If I go out in the market today and if I just type a applicant tracking system, so Danshu, there are more than 200 better quality ATS available to you at just pay as you use model. This is something very beautiful. Same with many of the HR function pay uses. So to conclude, I would say yes, AI has changed the way HR used to work and would be working in future as well. Because emotion-wise, you are still playing a very critical role in HR function, but all the transactional work would be taken care by AI in near future and now as well.
Now, in fact, one of the HRs that I was talking to, he complained to us saying that, while COVID accelerated HR and the entire digital transformation of many companies by decades, people are kind of falling back to older habits now that COVID is gone. And we did a project wherein we said that you need to sustain the acceleration that happened due to COVID in terms of digital transformation in all aspects, right? Uh, I know that banks and others, there were a lot of receipt work and other things that used to happen. They moved to digital signatures and others, digitally enabled ways of doing things. And as soon as COVID was over, some people kind of got back to their comfort zones. And then again, HRs had to come back, and the people on the top, they had to come back and say that, it was a good thing. It's not that, you need not kind of throw it away. It is how the future will be. So organizations, looking at keep taking people into the future, right? That is where organizational L&Ds play an important role, right? If you have to create a workplace for the future, you have to create people who are ready for the future. Learning and development is a very integral part of that. And how does AI help businesses in getting the people the right skills, right? How can, say, is there a way of transformation in the L&D as well? Because we have seen different phases of learning and development, from workshops to online models, and there is a very hybrid model that is going on currently. But how does AI help in learning and development outcomes?
Very rightly asked, Sudhanshu, and let me answer this way. AI has kind of revolutionized the whole learning and development ecosystem. And I tell you why. It has given the teams to this whole initiative being customized. Earlier, if you remember, there were, and no offense to the people who still practice it, but for the sake of argument, let me put that way. There was a time when I used to publish this training calendar start of my year, HR year, and I would put 100 different trainings across, the whole year, publish it to employees on a different modules for different departments, and ask, okay, this is what it is. It's for you to mandatory take certain hours. You have to have it. There is no choice, right? And the drawback in that was, Sudhanshu, it did not keep the pace about individuals' strength and weaknesses, right? So let's say if Amit Kataria cannot cope with X amount of learning per day, let's say, whereas Sudhanshu is very, very sharp and he could grasp of this whole 8 hours of conceptualization in 2 hours. right? But then these two people are sitting in the same classroom for 8 hours. So it's a loss for Sudhanshu, it's a gain for Amit. But then how AI, as I said, revolutionized things is it has given more teeth and it has innovated the whole ecosystem. Now the whole learning and development initiatives are customized, are invented as per the needs of employee. And it's just not one LNI. Because if you see LNI typically are traditionally, I would say, the outcome of whole the PMS system you do. Companies now has kind of started in kind of upskilling and reskilling of the employees. But traditionally, as I say, and I'm carefully using the word traditionally, is it was always seen as, okay, you finish your performance management cycle, see there are red boxes and there are people who are not doing so good, that whatever the reasons may be, you establish a need for them to improve on certain areas based on your so-called assumptions on the paper or whatever, and then you force them to acquire that skill, right? Just imagine how mundane it was, and it was not at all effective. End of the three months, 6 months, you will publish training effectiveness calendar or scores, and all done, and then you clap fine. HR did a good job. Why? And that's why the reason HR were not so kind of very popular. It was though they were doing all heavy lifting, but there was no credit to them. Now AI has changed that. I personally see that if my resource or employee is in delivery, right, and his mind and passion, let's say if he's a .NET resource, but he is more into upcoming transformative technologies, and he want to learn the AI and machine learning, want to go to data engineering and all that. Earlier, there was no choice. He has to go with the set veteran. AI now helps these kind of people who are still trying to figure out their passion within the work streams. It made very, very easy. Now, with the advent of so many of edge tech companies, right, you have abundance of courses you can take on click. And beautiful thing about it is that most of the courses or skills you want to acquire are almost free. You don't have to spend even a single penny if you are a enthusiastic learner, right? But yes, that is also true that nobody would come and spoon feed you for your own learning. That is a hard work you have to do yourself. But if you are even 1% motivated to take you to the next learning path, currently there are ample of resources, and thanks to AI only, it remained possible, and it is happening at very, very lightning speed as we speak. Over to you.
So what I understand from you is that AI can make the transition for uh, LND, LNI professionals where it is not just a tick in the box. You're not just doing something that is mandated or something that is comes out of a gap analysis, but you can actually drive impact through learning, which is customized for people, that is which is future looking, wherein you can look at the future and say that this tomorrow my organization is going to need these skills. Can I customize it for people, take them on those journeys? So instead of being just in a tick in the box, which unfortunately I have seen a lot in my journey, uh, L&D can actually make organizational, people transformation can be driven through impactful L&D driven by AI. So the going towards the last question, right now, you're doing your PhD in AI and talent development, right? Now, what has happened in the last couple of years has, there was COVID, there was great resignation, there was silent or quiet quitting, then there is the recession, right? And it has both in terms of positive and negatively impacted on different organizations hiring strategies, right? So, how do organizations now adapt their hiring strategies to align with this, rapidly changing dynamics that is going all around, right? Because I'm very sure that there are so many tweets coming out. One fintech CEO had posted a post where a day before a person was supposed to join, he said that I got another offer, goodbye, right? So there's just so much change, so much dynamism right now. How do organizations adapt their hiring strategies, in this condition?
So, okay, it's Sudhanshu, is very challenging times, right? First of all, I tell you why. First of all, if you've seen the biggies of the world, where we used to call them the top five, where once you get into, you were just set for life, because ultimately the progression was good, pay was good, and all that. And to name few, it's like Google, Microsoft, Amazon of the world. In last 1 year, but you have seen these are the top companies who had the maximum involuntary or voluntary, what do you call them, attrition for them. They have laid off people in thousands across the geographies. And I personally, from my lens, I don't see as a problem of economic slowdown. What I see it as a problem of your wrong hiring or ample hiring. Coming back to the same, in the COVID time, when it started easing, many of the companies, in the anticipation of the larger landscape on the work side, kind of just crazily, get into the hiring spree, added roles which were not even required, redundant positions, this and that. But then, when you realize the truth, and when this truth bites you, you become self-conscious. Then you take course corrective actions, and that's what exactly happened. When these companies realize that this is not how it would be as you anticipated in the future, because also one part is AI, it kind of reduce many transactional roles, and you could do without even having to come from the people side. They first got a very good excuse to fire people. And I may be wrong saying that, but then they actually got a very, very good, I would say, shadow, where they could hide the reasons why it's happened, why not, to hide their own mistake. One. Second, the economy conditions always kind of makes your focus from kind of going all around, but to optimize your resources, right? So these two things happen simultaneously, Sudhanshu. As a HR, I would say the key here is to remain adaptable, resilient, and forward-looking, and ensuring that you not only survive but you also thrive. In this whole picture of today, as you see, companies who are more flexible, more agile, and the companies who could keep a tab on this first hiring as well as the firing practices, which as you currently see, are more successful companies, are more reputed, or maybe more stable companies in that sense. So I would conclude in the matter that, of course, these are challenging times, but people or companies who had their vision intact and who were very, very focused on their value system did not get impact. They thrived even more in these times, because I take my example as a company. We have almost 100 plus positions open as of today we speak. Why so? Because we were very, very focused what we want to achieve. Instead of doing 100 different things which we had no expertise, we focus these five things are our core. These five things are our people are very expert on, and we did right hiring at right time, and we kind of stayed focused. And most of the companies who did so are still thriving. They are still putting more jobs to the market. And the companies who were larger in the setup, what they did in the past, now they are trying to rectify that mistake. And that's, I think, is impacting lots of people across the globe, in sense that they are losing their job, they are losing their livelihood and their work, which is not a good, I think, picture to be. So all my good wishes that everyone lands up in a work which they love doing, and then if I can help in any way as a company and HR, count me in, please.
Definitely. Beautiful, beautiful thoughts, Amit. And I know that tomorrow is going to be better than today. In terms
Yes.
of, I see early signs, especially India being as a shining star in this black global times, and we have become the world's biggest human resource, provider in the world, right? So I see going forward, and with AI coming in, and what I see is the nature of information penetration that has happened in India. I come from a very small city, but when I go to my city, I look at kids, what they are doing, how they are planning their future. I feel that, going forward, this advantage, the uh, uh, advantage of having the biggest human resource on planet is going to work really well for India, because I feel that, people are utilizing really well. Wonderful thoughts. Any closing comments as we come towards the end of this interview? It was really a pleasure talking to you, hearing on things that are closer to your heart. So, if you had to, for especially the HRs possibly listening in, if they have to, if you have one small message for all of them, Amit, what would that be?
Right. So all the fellow friends and people from HR fraternity, if you're listening me, and if you're about to start your career in HR and you're thinking you should or you shouldn't, I want to give that advice. That HR is a one field where if you don't like being surrounded by human problems and behavioral aspects of it, it won't go long for you. And to start with that, just kind of expose yourself to every function of HR instead of being constrained to something. Most of the time, what mistake we do is we limit ourselves to one function of HR, let's say recruitment or whatever, and then you start complaining, hey, I did not enjoy doing HR because I used to call all day sourcing a problem. And that's how it is. No, it's only one part of HR which you are exposed and you probably did not like or like. So, in order for you to decide that do you want to pursue your career in HR or not, please expose yourself to whole gamut of HR functions, starting from HR administration, payrolls, L&T, training development, and then employee engagement, recruitment, so on and so forth. And once you figure out this is the one thing you love most among all the HR things possibly could happen around you, then decide. And that's my message to all budding HRs coming in, forward
Yeah.
looking to HR.
Yeah, that's actually a very nice advice, because and I really when I look or interview HRs for my company, that one thing that you said is that HR needs to be in the center of people dynamics, and however it is, right? If you like being around people, if you like solving people problems, you like being in the present, HR is a wonderful profession for everybody to have. And you know being a co-founder gives you kind of the flexibility of donning multiple hats, and this is one hat that I really enjoy wearing a lot. So, Amit, it was really a pleasure having you on this episode of Finding the Fix, and it was a beautiful dialogue. And I'm very sure that it would be impactful. It would be helpful for people who are listening, and it will be over social media in the coming days. But what I can thank from the AntWalk team is it was an absolute pleasure having you here.